And we are live.
Welcome to Self Success. Welcome to Self Mastery Success. Creating excellence, how to effectively eliminate self sabotage, elevate your energy, and lead in your work and life to achieve success. This is an interview series where we dive deep into the minds of high performing leaders and industry experts to unlock the strategies behind their success. Each episode offers you invaluable insights that you can apply to elevate your personal and professional life. Be sure to check out the description below for more details about today's guest, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on the actionable tips and strategies from these experts. Also, you can access exclusive gifts and resources from each expert that will support you on your journey to excellence. Today's guest, we have Miss Sade Kelly. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you all?
Doing
We're
great, doing
great.
great.
We're great. Tell the audience a little bit about what you do and who you like to serve.
Ooh, like to serve. Okay. So, hi everyone. I am a time management coach. I teach ambitious women. Usually they're part-time or full-time entrepreneurs. That's who I like to serve. I teach them how to manage their time efficiently so they can balance their work, their wellness, and their relationships in a peaceful way. Because I strongly believe that if you can learn how to leverage your most valuable resource, which is your time, you can be and do anything that you desire.
Facts. That's all we can say. Facts. Oh, okay, live done. No, I'm joking. No, so that's powerful because we believe that wholly as well. And you said you work with ambitious women. So in your experience working with ambitious women, um, well, like what are the most like common time management challenges they face? And like how do these challenges actually impact like how they show up in the world and their overall success? What have you found?
So I'm an ambitious woman myself, so I feel like I really understand this segment of people. Just for some context, like I had three businesses while I was working full time in corporate. I'm like the definition of like doing the most. So a lot of ambitious women tend to also be doing the most. Like a lot of times they are trying to do all of the things, manage all the things, do it all themselves, and they're barely keeping themselves afloat, and a lot of times they're sacrificing self-care. They're making time for others or for what feels important or what deliverable needs to be done or who needs something from them versus like looking internal. And what I see is a lot of them are burning out. They kind of lost faith in planning because it's like they just got to get things done, so they're kind of like on a rat race. And I help them to hone all of that in and get like back to the center of like why you're even doing all these things that you want to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is right up our like this is our conversation. We talk about prioritizing, managing time, like perfect conversation. For the people who just feel like they're lost, they're confused, they have no clarity, they just don't know. They feel like time is boo boo. How would you? What's the process for working for somebody who literally just don't get it, or they are insecure about it, they are ashamed about not knowing how to adult? What advice would you give to them?
So first I would say don't be shame, don't feel any shame towards it because I always joke that like I was taught how to be an adult up until like I graduated college, right? Like I feel like throughout, and maybe you guys can relate to this, but like throughout my school years, I was kind of like one of those kids who was good in school and just like did all the things because I was like, okay, this is like the route I need to take in order to get to become successful. And then as soon as I graduated college, and I was one of those people, I graduated and like I had a marketing and communications degree. I got a job in my like field, like did what I was supposed to do. And then I get to the job and I'm like, this is not what I thought it was gonna. Like I was a creative person and I thought I was gonna be doing creative. Like I used to be an advertiser. And I did not do a lot of creative stuff. It was like everything was kind of like corporate. The corporate environment I was in was like whoever's a top boss kind of dictates everything. And like if you're a lower end worker just coming in, you don't even get to be creative. And I was like, this is not what I went to school for. Like what? So I think like for me, I realized, okay, I knew what to do up until this point. What do I want my life to look like now? Which was super scary. And I think we all kind of get to that spot where we're like, okay, what do I do now? And that's what drove me into, okay, I'm going to start really getting diligent about how I'm utilizing my time. So if you're someone like that, I would look at your life holistically. Like what are the things you like about certain aspects of your life, your wellness, your work, your relationships, your self-care, your finances, your home environment, your friends, like whatever it is, like go into all the different aspects of your life and think about what do I like and what do I not like in those areas. And for me, the common theme that I saw was like, okay, how I'm spending my time dictates everything that happens in my life. And that's when I was like, oh, this is deeper than like having a schedule or keeping a planner or using some prioritization hack that I learned on Instagram. This is like literally me curating my life and what I want it to look like. So how am I going to get serious about making sure it lines up the way I want? So that's when I realized, okay, every day you go to work and you manage like 50 plus campaigns for these big companies, these corporations, right? And you're running these ads on TV and do it. It looks glamorous, but like you don't actually want to be doing that. So like, what do you really want to be doing? And that's when I started like a blog, and I started, which was like personal development. And then I started, I had a water bottle company that was short lived, but I sold water bottles on Amazon because I was into fitness at the time. And then I also started hosting a bunch of events because I wanted to meet more business owners. And through doing all of that, people started asking me like, oh, well, how do you manage your time? And that's when I started doing workshops on time management. And I realized, oh, I could just become a coach. Like this was in 2020 when everybody was becoming a coach. So I was like, I'm going to become a coach too. So, but for me, luckily it stuck with doing time management coaching. So I think for people who are trying to figure out like, where do I start with time management? I would first start off with like finding a system that works for you. And if you guys want, I could break down like the system that I teach. But there's so, oh yeah, okay. Okay.
Go ahead.
Here for it.
So
Space.
I have a well, thank you. I have a system called Scheduling to Win, and what it looks like is starting off with a brain dump. So anytime you're thinking about what you want to be planning in your life, and I like to plan on weekly basis because I think it's large enough but then small enough people to really create a nice plan for themselves. So I like to start off with a brain dump of like, what are all the things I want to get done, personal life and then business, which it could be, different categories depending on your life. But for me, those two work. And I always tell clients the same thing, like you want to kind of categorize it because sometimes if you just write a list, it can be long. Like I've had clients who have like 92 things on their list and it's like, girl, like that's not the stuff you're going to get done in 1 week. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I like to narrow it down to like maybe a good 20 things that I want to accomplish over the course of the week. And those will vary based on like how big or small they are. And what I see people get mixed up on is like, what's the difference between a project versus like a task? And a task is a single thing you need to get done versus a project has tasks under it. So sometimes people kind of get those mixed up, and the next thing you know, they're working on a project for like all week and they thought it was one thing and it was not, it was multiple things. So you start off with that brain dump. And then the next thing you do is you make sure it aligns with your goals. And this is a big one that I didn't initially like teach, but then I realized a lot of people are doing a lot of things that they don't feel fulfilled by. And it's because it doesn't align with what they actually want. So like this takes you having to narrow down your goals and then make sure that the tasks align with the goals. After you have your tasks aligned with the goals, you prioritize them. And I really like to use the Eisenhower matrix, which basically you just prioritize your tasks based on importance and urgency. And then once you have that, then you can go ahead and schedule into your calendar, or schedule into your physical planner, or schedule into your project management software or whatever. But like a lot of people are just going to the let me schedule because someone taught me how to time block on YouTube, and they're missing all the upfront work that's gonna make the task more meaningful for them.
Yes. Yeah, that's that exactly that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious. So you got down, you kind of broke down the kind of process that people get to go through to manage their time effectively. What do you believe are like the mindset shifts that are necessary for individuals to really truly leverage their time effectively? Because I know you mentioned, of course, making it more meaningful, but what are some of those mindset shifts that maybe you had to unravel within yourself, or you had to unravel within someone you work with?
So there's so many. One of the top ones is first of all, I want to just say overall, you have to shift how you identify. So one of the bigger hindrances that I see with myself and I see with clients all the time is that how they identify affects how they show up. So if you say things like, so I used to identify as a procrastinator and a perfectionist. Those two things don't really serve me. Because if I tell myself I'm a procrastinator and I wait till last minute to do things that I thrive on doing things last minute, what do? I tend to follow that belief because my actions have shown that if I believe something, I'm going to follow it. And it's given me pretty decent results, but not exactly the results I want. So a lot of times people are identifying with things like I'm a procrastinator. I'm not disciplined. I don't have enough time. I tend to not follow through on things. Like the more you identify with all those things, or another one people say all the time, if I start something, I have to finish it like that same day. That's a big hindrance for like ambitious women. And it makes them go burn out and like feel like they can't stop, right? So if you keep identifying as things, you tend to take the actions of those things. And the only way to change your actions is you have to change how you identify and what you believe in for yourself. So for anybody watching, I would always recommend, and I do this exercise with my clients, like the first step is like, how do you identify when it comes to time? Like, what are the things you're telling yourself? If you're telling yourself you don't have enough time, you're never gonna have enough time. If you're telling yourself that you're a procrastinator, you're always gonna procrastinate. Like, what are the things that you keep telling yourself? And then you can start to rework those beliefs. So you have to start identifying differently. And then when you start identifying differently, you tend to take different actions. Because one thing I see a lot is like people want to build routines and they want new habits, but they keep telling themselves, oh, I tend to fall off the wagon. After 2 weeks, I can't last. Or I tried that, but then I couldn't be consistent. And it's like, girl, consistency does not need to be 100% every single day, like high energy. That's just like not even realistic for anyone. You kind of have to define what that would look like for yourself and give yourself some grace to build over time. And that's something I don't see. Like, I think a lot of people online say it takes 21 days to build a habit, and it can. It usually takes about 21 days to break a habit, but to build it, I've seen it take anywhere from 66 to 90 to even 254 days. So that's like up to 8 months, or even a year that it could take to like really solidify something. And most people are giving up after like a month, right? Like we see that all the time when the New Year starts.
Yeah, yeah. So whenever people come to you, what are some of the things that you notice immediately as they like what? Because a lot of times when we're in our life, especially ambitious women, things are not going fast enough. We're not making enough progress. I know I'm good, but I could do better. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that as people are learning the habits, and the routines, what are some of the indications that, girl, you on track? Calm down, just so people can know what to look for as they are building that muscle.
So you have to say, I love that question because I go through this all the time. I literally just went through this like on Monday with a client. So the funny thing is like we don't set up benchmarks for ourselves, like small benchmarks. So the thing is, what I see is like a lot of people will have, let's say like, I want to make 6 figures in my business. And it's like, that's a cool goal, but it's not really specific enough. And you don't have benchmarks to measure along the way that help you feel like you're getting to that goal. And that's where people go wrong because they're just like, oh, I haven't hit the 6 figures yet. Oh, I'm not, I didn't make it. I'm never going to get there. It's too hard. But it's like, what are your benchmarks along the way? Is it, I want to get in front of 10 new audiences. I want to post every day on social media. Is it that if I want to get one new client a month? Or like, what are the small benchmarks? I want to build my website. Like setting up small benchmarks along the way tends to help ambitious women because first of all, we love to check something off, right? So like, yes, like having something to check off and like measure your progress along the way helps a lot. Another thing that helps a lot that I make my clients do is reflect. So I always ask my clients every single coaching session. It drives them nuts because it takes them the longest to answer this question, and I don't care. I'm like, what are your wins this week? Oh, I don't know of any wins. What are your, and they have to, I don't go on with the session until they share something that's gone well, because it's so easy for us to share. Our brains are just wired for negativity. Like it keeps us safe, right? So we tend to always know, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But I'm like, okay, what did you do? And then we'll literally, what we'll do on my team, we'll like actually write up a recap of like, here's your wins this week. So you can kind of like see it along the way. So I would recommend somebody else do that. If you're not working with a coach, like mark your wins along the way and reflect every week, because that also will help you to give yourself a bit of grace. Because believe me, I still struggle with giving myself grace. I'm like, why haven't I gotten here yet? Then I have to remind myself, like, reel it in, like you've hit these certain benchmarks, to give yourself some grace.
Love it, love it, love it. And so whenever the individual women, ambitious women, actually, let's say, implement these changes, they reflect on these changes. How do these changes actually contribute to achieving not just professional goals, but personal growth and fulfillment?
So it really depends on how you set up your goals. So I think,
Mm.
and that's a good question because a lot of people, when I say goals, they automatically do think of professional goals because we've kind of been trained to think of professional goals. But I always, another thing I do that stuns clients is one of the first is I ask them when we're building a schedule or like we're getting into what their goals are. I'm like, what do you want personally? And a lot of times they're like, routine. I think I want to work out more. Like they're not even sure what they want personal wise. And I'm like, what do you really want? Like, what are some benchmarks you have? And I ask them like, are you fulfilled? And then sometimes I have to probe them like, are you fulfilled with your friendships? Like, how do you feel about your family life? Are you spending enough time with like your significant other? Do you want to find a significant other? Like, believe it or not, I've helped women like date and find their spouse. Like, it's crazy. Like what managing your time could do. I've helped people like write books and find their partners and make new friends. Like, depending on what you want personally, we can kind of tailor your goals that way. But another thing I want to say, I really want people to understand that like these things are not going to happen overnight, especially when it comes to like beliefs and setting goals and then achieving the goals. I think working on your mindset is one of the top things you have to be doing every single day. So I always also tell clients, okay, part of your routine should be some type of personal development, whether that's reading a book, listening to a book, watching YouTube, watching interviews like this, surrounding yourself in environments where you can talk to people who are also trying to improve themselves. Because if you're not used to this at all and you're so new to the self-help world, it can be really scary. You're like, well, there's a lot to learn, a lot of different opinions. I have a lot to work on. I'm never going to be enough. And like you can kind of go down that spiral. Because I've gone there. I've been like, oh my God, am I ever going to be like enough? And it's like, no, honey, like you're enough as you are, but like you can still get better.
Yeah, yeah, that's facts. That's facts. Even a side note, I think I don't know if it might be true, but I think that people who are high, let's say ambitious or high performing individuals, I think they
Hmm.
realize that because they're more used to being able to form a habit and manage that habit, they're more likely to be able to form a new habit and manage that quicker. Like, how have you seen that as well?
Hmm. Yeah, oh yeah. Ambitious people, we think we're superhuman, right?
Yeah.
Like, like, and I get it, like, because if you're a high performer, it is very difficult to not think that you're going to high perform in all areas and that you're not going to catch on to things very quickly. I've fallen into that where I'm like, oh, well, I tend to catch on things quickly. I should be able to just do everything quickly and get to 100% like really quick. And sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And what has helped me is I had to rewire my mind to like, you can fail fast instead of trying to like get great at something fast. Why don't you fail fast, learn from that fast, and then move on? Because I think when you have a rule book already written out for you, it's a bit easier to succeed really quickly. Like I could see really quickly in school because you kind of have like the textbook given to you, the teacher tells you what to do. In life, that's not really
They
a
do not be
thing.
teaching us how to life, honey. They do not be trying to teach us how to adult ourselves either.
No, no. So yeah, I think that you really just gotta like reel it in and give yourself some grace and work on like accepting that mistakes are needed on your route to success. And you may see some success and still make mistakes along the way as you're going to whatever the next goal is.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we kind of get to the end of so could you give us one specific strategy around a time management trap? Like what so give us one
Okay.
time management trap and then a strategy to overcome that time management trap that you often see. Like
Time
what's
Yeah, like
management.
so like
yeah, I
because
want to elaborate because I was going to ask something around that as well. Like, what is the main challenge that you're witnessing that a lot of ambitious women have having when it comes to time management?
Ooh, so I think it truly like one of the big things I see is like they don't make the time to meet with themselves. And when I say meet with themselves, I mean like guard your time to plan your week ahead, guard your time to reflect on the week prior and what you want the week to look like. Like a lot of people don't really make that time a consistent thing. Like they may do it here and there. Sometimes they may look at their schedule, they have a busy day, but they're not like intentionally sitting down and like meeting with themselves. And that's like always, that's one of the biggest things I see is hindering them because they're like, oh, I know what I need to do. It's on my calendar. But sometimes what's on your calendar is just a bunch of meetings that somebody else put on there. And you didn't really sit down to carve out when you're going to work on the things that matter most to you. And obviously, the way to combat that is to actually sit down and make that meeting with yourself and guard that time like you're meeting with your boss. As I knew that, like, for instance, when I started doing that, it was like years ago, right? When I was still working in corporate, and I realized like sometimes I would push the meeting off. And I started to ask myself, like, why do you push that meeting off, but you would never like push a meeting off with your team? And I realized like because I respect them, right? And like I want to show up for them and I know I need to be there. So like why would you not do that for yourself? And I think we're not taught that. So that would be one of the biggest things that I recommend for anybody watching. Like intentionally meet with yourself every single week and get intentional about like your plan. How you deliver, how you know, live out the plan or how things go will change. You have to learn how to adapt and like that's a whole nother thing. But at least having the plan is the first step.
Hmm.
This is so powerful. Well, what is the gift that you have to share with the audience?
So I have a prioritization Eisenhower matrix that I made myself. It's a template that I would love to share. I call it prioritize like a pro because I truly think that if you can prioritize your time, like you can create more time. And that's a big thing too that I see creatives don't really like to admit. Sometimes the creative, especially like ambitious people, they tend to be creative and they usually are like, oh, well, if I put everything in so like down to the T, then I will feel like restricted and I won't be able to be spontaneous. And my whole thing is like you can be more spontaneous if you prioritize the things that have to get done, the things that are urgent, because your mind can be more free and you'll know exactly when those things are going to happen. Because a lot of times the anxiety that comes up, the stress, the overwhelm comes from like having all, I call them puzzle pieces, but they're pretty much tasks. And I always tell my clients like you have all these puzzle pieces all over the place. That's what it sounds like. Have you put the puzzle together? Oh no, I haven't. That's where a lot of the anxiety and overwhelm is coming from.
Definitely make sure y'all download that so you can learn how to prioritize. Do you mainly do one-on-one or is it group coaching?
I do both.
Okay.
So it really just depends on like the person. So I'm very big on like I actually do consultations with clients beforehand. I do something called a time audit where I literally will meet with you. I will audit your time, get an understanding of like where you're using your time well and where you're not using your time so great and like how we can bridge the gap between the two. And then depending on like what you need is what I offer. So I have a group coaching program, I have a one-on-one coaching program, and then I have coaching sessions that I do. And then I'm toying around with the idea of a membership, but I don't want to talk about that yet because I haven't like built it out. But it's something I want to do as well because a lot of my past clients are like, I want to continue on, and I would love to be in community with others. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go into that. So yeah.
Okay. And for the people who are really interested, is it with your coaching, is it year long, 6 months, 3 months? How long are you going
So
to spend with them?
yes, I usually start off with 3 months, and then we see where we're at the end of the quarter, and then we choose. You can choose whether or not you want to continue on for six, nine, or even like a year. It really, but I always start off with 3 months because we. I think you see the biggest change from working with clients over the years. I've had so many different like programs that I've tested out. I've seen the biggest shifts in 90 days because it's short enough, but also long enough where you can see a big change. Sometimes when you're in these longer programs that I've seen, you kind of dwindle off.
Yeah.
And then if you're in a shorter program, you feel like you didn't get to really like do enough. So 90 days has been shown like a really good time frame.
Yes, yes, yes. Where can the audience connect with you further?
So I'm most active on Instagram. So you can find me at Sade Kelly underscore. And I'm sure you guys have that link somewhere. Also, I'm on YouTube, X, TikTok, like all of the things. I'm like a Facebook. I'm on all the different social media platforms. But if you want to like the day to day, I'm on Instagram the most.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Are there any last words that you would like to leave with the audience?
Create that meeting for yourself. Like, I know we've talked a lot about different techniques around time management, but that's one small thing you can plug into your calendar right now or your planner right now. Meet with yourself. And if you have a family or a significant other, do a meeting with them as well. I think there's not enough people like really planning in their time with the people they spend the most time with, right? Like, all of our calendars have to be synced in because a lot of what I see with the ambitious women I work with, they tend to have amazing calendars sometimes, but then like their husband's calendar is crazy, or like their kids' calendar is not, they don't even have that together. So like if you have a bunch of moving parts and you are intertwined with a lot of people, I would try to also have those intentional meetings there too, so you can have it all planned out and means to sync.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Sade. And so, everyone, you know what to do. All right, you want to follow, hit the subscribe button wherever you are to stay notified for more insightful conversations like this. And you want to share your comments, your thoughts, your biggest takeaways. What stood out to you the most from this? All right, let us know in the comments below. And of course, the gift page is in the description below, so you can grab Sade's gift for you, so you can create that meeting with yourself and connect with her further. So thank you guys. Remember, self-mastery success is about you doing what you can to be your best. All right. So